minutes for November 9th, and I think everyone's here. If there's no corrections or discussion, I'll open the floor for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, please.
Okay, Ms. Cooperman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Yoder?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
And Mr. Turner?
Yes.
All right, your minutes have been approved for November 9th, 2021, and I don't know if they were 34 pages. It's a record.
It was sort of a long meeting. Next would be the approval of the monthly disbursements.
With the addition of the
Yes.
VFW request.
Yes.
Yeah, I move approval of all the invoices presented along with the request from the VFW for $2,500 that we had already had in our budget.
I'll second.
Motion is second, any other discussion?
All right, on the motion for the approval of the monthly disbursements with the inclusion of the VFW request, Mr. Yoder?
Yes.
Ms. Cooperman?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Abstain.
Okay. And Mr. Turner?
Yes.
All right.
And I'm abstaining because I'm receiving the travel mileage payment in the.
So he's abstaining because he is receiving a payment in the disbursements for travel mileage. Okay. Thank you for that. So your the monthly disbursements are approved and waiting for you to sign.
We had Sheriff Craig on the agenda tonight, but he didn't need to be here tonight, so I think him take a vacation, stay at home.
All right.
So I guess that gives our dog roulette extra 10 minutes.
And I don't have anything prepared. I came to listen to you guys for what you all need from me. So we just got finished pre-filing bills. The pre-file date ended November 29th. We could put in as many bills as we wanted up until that date. At this point going forward, we can only submit 5 new bills. Am I allowed to take my mask off while I speak? Okay. So yeah, I'd like to hear from you all. We've been at all the board of supervisors meetings and everybody needs money. So I've gotten used to hearing that. So yeah, please guide me through what we can do for Floyd County.
What the governor's coming out with today, we don't need some money. You know, I mean, everybody been asking him for the money for 4 years. You know, just all of a sudden he decided he found something. So I think there's a plan behind it. So.
Did Delegate Marsh receive a copy of these?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, because they
I haven't
haven't
seen anything just yet, so I'm looking forward to it.
If I'm not Mr. Booth, those are the ones, of course, from your previous year.
Yeah.
Right. So it was multiple pages. I will be happy though we can get one before she heads out this evening. If you guys still believe in those, or if you'd like to address something else, we can send to.
I don't think they were asking you what we had on here, so.
Yeah.
Well, my question is, could we just maybe review this, go through this now? And I'll be glad to share my copy. And
Yeah, here, give me this copy.
that would, I don't think our concerns have really changed that much over the past year.
If I may, while she's getting her copy, the one thing overall that sticks out with me is, and I've said this in recent VACO conferences to every elected official I can run across, and you people have to remember, because you're from Floyd, there are 8 counties in this state that do not have zoning. And it seems that every time they're doing anything in planning or housing or whatever, they tie it to a zoning or zoning And that knocks us out of it. Had fought to get where used to the district administrator could reduce speed limits, for as one example. Well, they took that power away from him, and finally, I think it was last year, they adopted, the General Assembly passed something, but they referred to residential districts and business districts, which is direct language out of the zoning ordinance. And so it doesn't look like it's going to apply to us where in these dense areas we can reduce the speed limit without going through all this hoopla that VDOT has put in place. And if you're ever a big fan of J-Lark studies, please push for having one down on VDOT. That organization is, and I'm not talking about our local people. Our local people are doing everything they can with what they have.
Yeah.
But when you get to Salem and Richmond, that's
I'm pretty sure it's kind of like OPEC.
you're exactly right.
I don't know that I'm gonna get anywhere with that my first year. We'll see.
I've been trying it for 16 years, so just don't give up.
Right. But as far as looking out for the rural communities, that's exactly my agenda, all the way. So anything I'm hoping to get put on the agriculture board, cities, counties, and towns would be great. I've asked, I want it all. I want general law, I want commerce, but I'm not going to get some of those.
Agriculture would be good.
It would be great. We farm, this is a farming community. It could really help this area. But cities, counties, and towns, I'm very familiar with fighting against ordinances and different things over in Christiansburg. And I've seen, a county with an inflated budget and how, that's not good either. Right. So you guys have a small budget. You have to make your money work for you. We need you guys to get as much money. I'm here to look out for the rural communities.
Well, one of the things that I feel really strongly about, and another accident occurred on it just last week, is Route 8, the stretch from Reiner to the county line. They'll keep on telling us, oh yeah, we're thinking about it. We continue to lose lives, have fatal accidents, have very dangerous accidents. And if there's anything that you can do to just get that stretch of road, I know it's going to cost a lot of money. I know it's blowing through Pilot Mountain. I get all of that, but every other bit of Route 8 has been taken care of, except for that.
This should be a project we can kind of hone in on for Floyd County. I know I have a colleague, Delegate Moorfield, who is submitting a bill to help with some flooding relief, and I believe it's going to go through. Right. So that can help Christiansburg. Christiansburg had a canine dog that drowned in a basement because of the flooding issues over there. So Floyd, our predicament is all the lives being lost on Route 8. So
now it is in Montgomery County, which is still part of where you're in part of your district, your area. So if we can look at that, it's just so, as well as I do, so many people from Floyd travel out of the county to go to work. So that, just if you can put that on your agenda, I agree with the flooding issues. Yeah, that was crazy in Christiansburg.
I'm not sure if we have flooding areas here in Floyd that I'm aware of.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Where are those?
Well, there's Sours Mill Dam, Rogers Road, Thunderstruck.
That's not my district.
Mostly my district, but you get it over on Birch Ford. Doesn't Butterfield every once in a while?
We think there could be a lot of money that comes to the area through this bill. So we're going to look out for that when that gets passed.
That's that section right, you was talking about there,
Yes.
from county line to Camp Perrybrook. If they could just do something about that section right there.
And see, Marvin Gerald's was a friend of ours, the postmaster. Mine died out there at Camp Perrysburg. So we think about it every single day.
Justin just reminded me, Route 8 in the area of that clinic down there, it flows through there quite a bit too.
Oh, yeah, on Meadowcreek Road.
You were
Yeah, right here in Floyd.
Oh, Floyd, yeah, down there.
And
That
so,
section of Route 8 right there would help us as far as the economy too.
just to be clear, you all want expanded shoulders or you want 4 lanes?
Straighten the curve.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
I mean, we don't have 4 lanes. Yeah, we don't have 4 lanes anywhere on Route 8. We just need to, yeah. I think Jerry could give you some.
What the ask was.
There is a resolution on record wanting to bring the new interstate instead of coming up 81, coming up Route 8. It's on record somewhere. Not from this board, no.
Let's be really clear.
But you know, if you get more than 3-4 inches of snow, that little section's closed down for hours at a time.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just impassable.
And then they gotta come up 615, which half of them don't know how to drive, and then we get,
More problems.
more problems.
Well, I'll definitely work on it.
We gotta pay 17 cents for doing 81, to straighten this road out, while we get some trucks on 81.
Yeah, for sure.
First of all, I want to thank you for coming tonight, because we haven't always been, over the last 10 years that I've been here, we haven't always had legislators willing to come and speak to, have a conversation, so thank you for being willing. That really means a lot. There's a couple things that I wanted to point out in what we've passed, in the past copy that you've got. On the first one, we're talking about, on the first page, down where it says economic development and planning, the second bullet point under that, we've been trying to work on a commerce park here in the county off of 615. It would be extremely helpful for us to have some assistance to get improved truck access into the commerce park. It wouldn't take a lot. But right now, a lot of times trucks will come around through town and have to go through the stoplight. It's just crowded in town. And if we could get a little better route through the existing industrial park over to the commerce park, it would help us considerably and help us with traffic in town. So that's one that might be easier to get than straightening all around.
Well, how old is this guy living?
It would be, I think it would help us considerably on the traffic issues. On the second page, under environment and agriculture, the first bullet point is one that I really think hurts our community and probably a lot of rural counties. Stormwater regulations, they keep coming and coming and coming. As this points out, Floyd isn't even in the Chesapeake Chesapeake Bay watershed. And right now, if a company wants to come to Floyd and disturb more than an acre of land, now you're going through all the DEQ's regulations. It's a nightmare. And we're doing all that based on a situation that we're not even influencing. So anything that can keep us out of those regulations. I mean, ideally, the whole state would be kept out of some of those regulations, but in particular Floyd County, because we're not even contributing to the problem in the Chesapeake Bay. And I think from here west, I mean, a lot of counties are in that situation where, it's hard to get companies to come in and build buildings when they're going to have to go through all this red tape, and it's going to be 6 months or a year of dancing around to try to get all of the stormwater regulations passed. To me, that's two of the big things that really stand out. And the stormwater regulations really worry me going forward, because they built up to this point, but I'm really concerned about where they're going to go over the next 10 years.
All of our businesses get hit with stormwater fees in Christiansburg, and it is taxing. Dish Network, they literally folded up shop in Christiansburg because they were having to pay, I think, $5,500 a month because their parking lot was so big when they were in the Echo Star building.
Right.
So we've watched even national corporations fold up because they just can't handle the taxation from that. So I'm not a fan of stormwater at all. Most business owners are not. I'm definitely not going to let that seep into Floyd.
One other thing that isn't in this, but that I'm a little concerned of from both the county and from, and just in our businesses, is minimum wage going up very quickly, and I'm sure that's affecting your businesses. I'm getting involved in a business that's gonna have a really big impact. And, it probably is going to have impact on the county. And so, while I want to see all our workers make a living wage, I think that the rapid increase in minimum wage is going to have an adverse effect on a lot of businesses here in the county.
So I am being told now that there's, a change in the party that's in charge, I believe that's going to get frozen. So whatever it goes to in January, which I think is like $11, I believe it's going to stop at that. Possibly it could go to 12, but I know we're working to freeze that. So that's what we think will happen. Most Republicans, in the caucus, they all believe in free market and letting the market dictate what people are paid. So I think we're going to see that.
So it's contributing to our inflation right now. Of course. That's all I have.
No, just Rite Aid is my,
There's several things on here that are important from the Second Amendment things that we've worked on since we've been here to qualified immunity for the Sheriff's Office to the proposals that were recent to changes in the Floyd Act that would increase burdens on localities that are of special importance to me, right to life, as well under human services and health. Just to name a few, and one additional that I would like to point out as well that is just a growing burden on the localities is the mental health, lack of mental health resources. This has got to stop. I know this is a difficult issue, involves a lot of funding, but it is taken away, robbing localities of resources by way of sheriff's offices and first responders. And it really needs addressed. It's bad for the first responders. It's bad for the consumers that need their services. Very bad. They're not getting the help that they need. And it's very sad. And there's been some effort, but it's not been as much as it should be. So if you could keep those things in mind especially, I would appreciate that.
I'd like to ask, do you think the home health solves the mental health problem, or do you think we need to go back to facilities? Because this is a question that we're all asking ourselves at this point.
Personally, I'm not comfortable making that call. I'm looking at it more on the extended times when somebody's in crisis that they're being held up before services are offered, and the transportation and the extreme amount of traveling is having to take place, whether they're involuntarily committed or people that are willing to help themselves but having to drive from to Virginia Beach to find services. This is not services.
So there's kind of a debate as to if the home health is serving the population. So that's where we're at.
I think they are, but it's, I think, if I can, I think what he's getting into is a higher level. I serve on social services and River Community Services Board of Directors. And the biggest problem is finding facilities, and this is something I've told everybody at VACO too that I could get to listen. Our state spends money trying to get business and industry here. It's great, you need to spend money on tourism and that. Why not hone in on these companies, and there's some big companies out there that provide these services to build facilities here in Virginia so that we don't have to assign someone to Florida or North Carolina and you're the only one shaking your head. All the others looked at me like I lost my mind. But that's what it's going to take. It's going to take that level. Finding a facility, that and with CSA, in the juvenile system, and I'm talking about the incarceration system, we have got to get mental health people there that can work with these children. Because we run into problems where the judge will assign due to the violent nature, and I can't get specific, but say there's a violent nature to that child, we have to hunt all over creation and find a facility that will take and treat the child. So on that aspect of it, there needs to be more funding and trained personnel in the juvenile side of the system. But I think the state needs to pick up and say, hey, let's talk to these people, let's see if we can get them in here, build a facility, and please don't do any more to the state hospital.
Well, that was my question.
As far as,
Which route do you want to go? Is home health working?
I think home health works in certain
it
settings.
works in certain things,
Right.
but if you have to have a committal situation, we just don't have the facilities.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what I'm referring to when I say trying to get these companies to come in Virginia and build, that it is a committal setting. As far as the home care people, I think they're doing a wonderful job. But it's and I know with Families First, we're trying to get into the mode. Virginia's swinging. We're going back into the preventive mode, and that's great. But we can't also forget the after effect either when the preventive mode doesn't work.
And I think that's
And I probably didn't explain that very
But
well.
I think what you're saying is, and I think what it leads to, if we start at the beginning, Child Protective Services, and really going in when children are young, families are having issues, rather than just kind of leaving them out in the cold, that's if we can start to address things there, we end up maybe not having to have to put them in a hospital or a mental facility to treat something that could have been maybe dealt with on the front end. And I think it's really an overhauling. And it sounds like that's what the caucus is looking at. And
Definitely need, I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
You know, when you have somebody who's stuck in who's in crisis, and they're stuck in, especially during a pandemic, in an ER for 24 hours, because the state code currently says that you have, if you meet certain criteria, and you're committed, then the state facility has to accept you, and then they say, we don't have a place to put you, so you gotta stay in the ER until it, how is that services for somebody in crisis? And then it takes away from the local community, because by code, unless they meet certain criteria, the local sheriff's office is responsible for maintaining custody and transportation, so you're taking more resources from the local community. And that happens from the juveniles all the way to the adults. There's very little juvenile services across the Commonwealth, and the adult services continue to be restricted. There's a lot of things that there really needs to be looked at. There's been some effort. It's been minimal. I'm a big believer of the crisis centers, huge proponent for that. I think I'm biased because I'm associated with it, but our Community Services Board, I think, has the finest crisis center in the Commonwealth. These guys do a great job, and it's taking a lot of burden off of this community. But there needs to be some expansion. They need some support. And it all comes back to the locality, because it does affect every locality at many different levels.
And if it's someone that doesn't fit into that, like you said, the deputy ends up taking them to the ER, well, that deputy stays there.
Mm-hmm.
And when his shift's over, or her shift, I have to be correct, his or her shift, then the next one shows up and has to do it, forever how long it takes.
In a small locality like us, they're short-handed anyway. You get two officers tied up at the at the hospital, and then they're calling all the state trying to find a bed, And it's just like the training center has always been a sore spot for me, because they're always talking about they need mental health, but then they close the training center. One of the best things that we had in Southwest Virginia. And I just can't follow the reason. As far as home health, they do a great job, but there is situations where home health can't handle it.
There's a lot of models out there that other states are going to, and they're looking at specialized units in law enforcement to handle this. Virginia State Police would be a great place for that.
Yeah, it would.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, and I know the only way you can really force private industry to do it is with something like exclusivity agreements. So, and that's how they handle utilities and power companies, that I don't foresee Republicans going that direction with the business community. So, you know, we're all having those discussions. It's on the forefront.
I just didn't want you to feel left out. You got my standard speech to everybody in the General Assembly that I run into, so.
Yeah, we have to do something. It's a crisis.
It is.
There's
VDOT, yeah, VDOT and mental health, I thought this.
Guardrails around it.
Yeah, guardrails on Route 8, I'm still fighting that one 4 years later. But,
I know there's some good news I wanted to tell Mr. Yoder. I know we are working behind the scenes on a slaughterhouse that's coming to Carroll County. And it's going to be a pretty big one. There's a lot of funding going towards it. It's going to be kind of run like a nonprofit co-op where there's a board of directors and the farmers are going to make a whole lot more money per cow. So that's going to be, it's going to seriously impact Floyd County. You know, convenience is 77. I know it's a partnership going in with Food City, so it's going to go directly into distribution. There's already a lot going on. So that'll help our farmers.
I know one that really helped it off the bat because they hauled her sheep all the way to Adam.
Wow.
And now you won't have to
Yeah.
farm so far.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, one other thing is, you know, it's a reflection of this one seat here, if this is the appropriate time to do that. This is a comments based on myself, but I think it's appropriate that the education system gets back to quality education. I'll just leave it at that.
We're on it.
I just want to echo Jerry's sentiments about coming to
Yes,
Floyd
absolutely, thank you.
and Lawrence about, you know, we far too often never really saw anybody, so thank you.
I'm more than happy to come anytime. I was going to tell you all a couple of the bills that we put in.
Yeah.
One of those came to us from one of our school board members. I won't call him out, but it's to put flag decals, to allow municipalities to put flag decals and In God We Trust on the school buses. Nick Rush carried that bill. It was a tied vote. Now we'll definitely get it pushed through. So it'll be, you know, something good for the community if you guys want to do that. Lifetime hunting and fishing licenses to emergency personnel. So your volunteer firefighters, we're mimicking a bill from North Carolina. So you guys will get your lifetime hunting and fishing privileges. I think that'll be good to help with recruiting. The Tim Tebow bill I've submitted for whatever goes on with the school voucher program. This would be a good time to submit for the Tim Tebow bill. That allows the homeschool kids and the private school children to come play public school sports. It would also be a way during the school voucher, when that money gets dispersed, the public schools can keep some percentage of that money to help pay for the facilities. So if we're going to do it, we need to be doing this at the same time that we do the school choice bill. So I submitted for that, and I've been in Youngkin's ear and several people's ear about, let's try to wrap these up together. If we pass a true school choice bill, it'll help the public schools. And it'll also, you know, I think parents have been asking for that for many years. Of course, I'm a right winger. Y'all probably figured that out. I believe in not having mask mandates, so we put in the Ron DeSantis Parents' Bill of Rights to get rid of mask mandates, let the parents decide. Halting vaccine mandates on businesses. There's one that you guys probably are not going to like, but I don't know that it really applies to you all. One of my counties, and I won't say who, they don't publish their public meeting minutes ever. So, and it's not a law that you actually have to. So we're putting something in to make sure they publish their public meeting minutes within 7 days of their public meeting. Most people live stream it, or, you know, they're on top of it. We have one county that doesn't, and the citizenry is very upset. Red flag gun confiscation, we're carrying a bill to get rid of the red flag laws. constitutional carry. We're carrying a bill to help us to join 21 other states to do constitutional carry. And then the other gun bill that I'm carrying is a full repeal of HB 2295, which kept us from carrying guns, it prevented us from carrying guns on Capitol Square. That bill is just unbelievable. I can't believe they did it. I'm particularly upset because I have to walk from my condo to the Capitol through Richmond. So, and then also protecting landlords from rent moratoriums. We submitted for that as well. And then there's a couple other things. I've already gone in there and gotten laughed out of a meeting. I want to do a total revamp of FOIA. I'd like it to be a searchable database where the citizens can search it on their own. We already use .gov email addresses, so there's no way we all couldn't be trained to just redact the information, send it to a separate place so it doesn't go out to the public and let the public search our documents at any given time. That would, in other counties, I don't know that it goes on here, but in other counties, you know, people are getting charged $27,000 for FOIA requests. FOIA is a big deal. Citizens are mad about it. We need to figure out a way to have total government transparency. So I'm already pitching and pushing, and believe it or not, the Democrats are real keen on government oversight and transparency. So there's a couple Democrats I even reached out to, and they think it's a great idea. So it may be a bipartisan situation, and I think it would end up saving localities money in the long run. But we'll have to do a study on it to see what the fiscal impact is. And then, from a small business perspective, sales and meals tax that small businesses collect actually are getting hit with credit card fees that we're having to pay as the merchants. No one compensates us for that. So I put in a bill to make sure that merchants are going to get a tax credit for the amount of money they're paying in credit card fees. And then we're going to do, you all may not like this either, but I've gone head to head with government for years. I've submitted for a time study on every single state mandated government form that a business owner has to fill out. Whether it's VEC, DEQ, whatever is mandated, that takes up our time. And, you know, my husband and I own almost 11 businesses at this point. He actually lost his job at his medical practice 2 weeks ago, and we're opening a clinic here in Floyd. So now we're up to business number 11, but we get hammered with state mandated forms. Every agency gets you, even your localities get you, whether it's just filling out your meals tax forms, your sales tax forms, your grease trap department. You know, there's departments, stormwater, you name it. Over in Christiansburg, there's a department for everything. So a lot of the constituents, especially over there, they're just sick and tired of it. They're not compensated for their time. And that's about it. That's about what we've submitted from my team. And I think we have a good shot at getting a lot of these pushed through. So.
Can I ask one question? On the minutes, you said 7 days after a meeting.
Yes.
I would hope that'd be 7 days after they're approved, because
7 days after they're approved.
after
Yes.
approved, okay.
Yes.
Just to make sure, because it would cause a county like us to have a meeting every 7 days. And a lot of more work.
Sorry about that.
Just making sure.
We don't get paid by the meeting.
How frequently do you all, like, how do you publish your, I haven't checked into you guys. Pulaski's on my radar.
So, yes, so we work on ours and have them prepared, so if you saw the packet for tonight, it includes the minutes from the last meeting. And then those will be put up within usually just a couple of days. We are not as extensive as local government as Christiansburg, so sometimes it does take us a little bit longer, but generally they're certainly up before the next meeting.
Do you think 7 days is doable after approval?
It might be nice to have just a little more latitude in case the
7
one
to 10
person.
business days?
Yes, in case the one person who does it is on vacation.
Yeah.
Or having a baby.
Quarantined or a holiday. Yeah, I think what you said, 7 business days.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
key.
That's the key,
Yeah.
business days.
Yeah.
There has to be a compromise between.
Yeah.
What, I mean, at some point, if it's convenient, that's great, but it also, you're right, they need to go. I mean, at some point, the information becomes stale if you put it up 2 months later. It's a what I'll do with the information that.
And you all are not under a microscope because you post everything on YouTube. I've really just heard all this grief from the Pulaski community. So that's where that particular issue is.
I just wanted to make sure it was Sundays, not Sundays after the meeting, it was Sundays after approval. So we approved ours usually 14 days later. And then
After approved minutes.
yes.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I just saw something get real big. And I started thinking about it.
She was like, well, vacation
Mr. Taylor, if I might, just to clarify on the Floyd issue, so far I think the most, now I've been here 8 months, so I can't speak before that, but I think the most expensive Floyd bill we spent so far has been about $12.
Yeah, that's not coming from Floyd.
Yeah, right.
The Florida situation is Montgomery County and Pulaski, and it had to do with the Pulaski School Board very recently, and Montgomery County, it's never ending. Everyone's voiding everything in
I
Montgomery
was
County.
gonna say, I've had troubles from a constituent that we didn't even end up charging anything, so.
Yeah,
But
You guys are not the problem
they were fairly simple ones
Right.
too, so.
yeah.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you. I think we'll do a good job. I think we've got some good people that have been elected and some very intelligent people. So I think we're gonna do really well. And I believe too, from what I'm hearing, Governor-elect Youngkin, he's gonna fully fund a lot of things. He's gonna try to keep everybody kind of placated. So I don't think we're gonna see
Unfunded mandates?
unfunded mandates are going away.
Well, along with that, don't forget the current funding formulas that they keep shifting less for the state and more for the local government.
Yeah.
I think that has potentially has more impact on us than just a brand new program.
Yeah, shifting the cost to localities, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like transportation. The guy over there was telling me, he said, yeah, we're putting all this money into this, cost sharing program. And I said, we can't afford to 50-50 build roads, put the money into the regular road program so we can take care of the roads we have. But, I didn't rain on his parade too much, but he didn't hang around me very long.
No, they didn't.
Well, the caucus, they're kind of worried about me that I'm a strong female and they kind of want to give me things to make me go away. So hopefully I can do a lot of good stuff before they carry.
Devil cliche, about the squeaky wheel gets the grease,
That's true. They already see it. They're already worried to death.
Just on the lighter side, but, I get too much time on the farm to think, But, all through the campaign, you got this plaque about your western hat and roots and stuff.
I still wear all
I
that.
know.
Just not right.
Natural without it. But Nancy Sinatra had a song. It'd be a good campaign song.
These boots were made for
Just leave the melody out, words out, just use the melody.
So Tim Anderson is kind of that infamous lawyer from up north that just got elected, and he texted me in the last meeting and he said, Marie, everybody here is scared of you. I said, good.
Keep it that way.
So maybe we can get some good stuff for the rural areas.
Well, we got high hopes for you, and I got all the confidence in the world for you, and any way we can help you, we'd be glad to help you, and we'll be calling on you.
Yes, and I'll be updating too to let everybody know what we're working on. So please feel free to reach out. My cell phone number is the number that I work with everybody. I'll give everybody that. It's 540-230-7582. We haven't been assigned offices just yet. We don't have the office phone number just yet, but that number is how I get back to everyone. So you can text me, you can call me, Facebook, we respond. And my legislative aide is Beth Tate. She comes from the Ron and Rand Paul presidential campaigns. She's kind of a big deal. Her and her husband, they ran a presidential campaign for Ron Paul. Actually, her husband was pardoned by President Trump. So they're big players in Washington. They know the system. Beth is a natural with legislative work. Matter of fact, everybody keeps asking them, why are you even involved in a delegate race? And they were floating from one thing, and I grabbed them and begged them to come on board. So she'll be very helpful to people. She loves Floyd. They're trying to find a house to move to Floyd. They actually are renting in Pulaski right now. So I think they'll be joining us out here in Floyd.
Actually, I still got a big box of your campaign stuff.
You can throw it away. You don't have to keep it.
Use it next time.
I should change the date. We did grab all our signs. We plan to use those again. We may be running with redistricting.
Yeah,
Right. Follow
Yeah.
here.
You don't know.
And that's scary too, because, who knows how that could go. So.
Yeah, well, I'll hang on to them then. But somebody stole my 4x8, so that's what irritated me a little bit.
Thank you all so much for having me this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Stay and listen to the rest of the
Yeah,
meeting.
I will.
All right. Sometimes
Did that perfect.
Steve, we doing good here.
I'm very impressed.
So, if you want to give us an update on what we're here for.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Can you all hear me all right? We're prepared to open the public hearing on the redistricting ordinance for the election districts for the Board of Supervisors. This is a result of decennial census. We've had population growth in Floyd County and some shifts of population that takes us outside of the acceptable population variance that you can have between the various election districts. And for that reason, we need to redraw the boundaries. The board's held a number of meetings, public meetings, broadcast on YouTube, that when you consider different variations to the maps. At the, I think it was the last meeting in October, we approved a boundary map and submitted the proposed maps and proposed ordinance to the Attorney General's office for a notice of no objection. We're still waiting on a result for that, but as part of the process, we adopted sort of a hybrid process since we're so much later in the game than we usually are. I mentioned previously that normally, in years past, the 2011, 2001, if you look back 40 years, I think, you would find that this process is usually concluded in May, ending in 01. So, or ending in 1. So, 91, 2001, 2011. This was always done by May. But because of the pandemic, because of the delays with the census, and the delays in drawing the legislative boundaries that ex-President March had mentioned, we find ourselves right up against the statutory deadline for adopting the district boundaries. I'm aware of some localities who have not gotten their redistricting data, and they're not going to be able to redistrict in 2021. I think that I would rather be in Floyd County's position. There are some good arguments for why they're still in compliance and why there should be no practical consequences for completing their process in 2022. But I think it's better, because we can, to conclude it in 2021. So I think we're ready to open it for public comment on any questions or concerns that the public might have.
And if I might, Mr. Chair, so there is a sign-up sheet for the hearing. If people want to speak, then if you want to put your name down, then the chair can call on you or however, but that way we have a record of everyone who stood up and wanted to say something and don't miss anyone.
Anyone will sign up?
It's a little confusing there, Mr. Gill. There's one for just a public meeting and then there's one for redistricting.
Oh, wait a minute. Redistricting.
There we go.
Yes, it did. Oh, wait a minute, one more. That's a magic thing.
Any other takers? Let's see. I'm going to bring you both up to you, Mr. Chair. So just general public comment and then also the current redistricting.
Public comment. So the first step would be, on the redistricting, anyone.
Mr. Chairman, did you formally open the public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, the first one will be Mr. Gale.
Michael Gale, Indian Valley District. My only comment is that I want to thank the fact that it was made available online. I had some trouble bouncing back and forth. 10 years from now, I presume we'll have better software. But I do want to just say I brought that up and I noticed it was made available, so I wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gale.
Pauline Gale, Indian Valley. Thank you for letting us speak and responding to us. Two things. I was in a meeting yesterday, attended a lot of meetings. You'd be surprised how many people do what a newspaper does for your schedule. And people are concerned about numbers. How many people are being lost here? How come 30 people are moving here? They're afraid you're going to change they're afraid you're going to lose people in their district that vote their way or vote the other way. And they're also still concerned about distance. I live on Allen Ridge Road and I vote in Indian Valley. That is a long way, especially, we could have snow in November, we could have, it's a really long way. So the other thing I hear is if you're in your district, is there also a possibility of,
You can take it off.
okay, is there also a possibility of having more than one voting location in some of those 5 districts? And I know you have discussed that, and you've discussed it repeatedly, but there's a serious, people are getting older in these areas, and that's just what happens to all of us. We all kind of have the same color hair. That we need to make it easier for we need to make it easier for people to vote. You know, everybody wants all the people in their district to have the opportunity to vote. And it's really hard to get out the vote if you have to go pick up grandma and grandpa or somebody who's handicapped or doesn't have a car for whatever reason. That makes it hard on the electoral people, your people who are working the polls, and on you guys, because that's kind of a responsibility of, I believe, the Board of Supervisors to make voting available, right? So, and I know that's expensive, but just moving the district lines is not going to solve that problem, because we're not moving them, from what I understand, enough to make any difference. We need to add another place in some of those bigger areas to vote. Like I said, the other thing I heard was people don't understand what redistricting is. So it would be good if maybe in your minutes or on one of your little videos or something, you could explain that redistricting isn't really shifting any more population than we need to shift. You know, maybe 2 or 3 people here, it's not whole large groups of people. Because people say, well, who's making that decision? Who's you know, are they carving more for the courthouse district? Are they taking, and that's a real concern among people, and it would just put people's minds at ease, I think, because I hear it over and over again. Thank you.
I'll give anybody else an opportunity that didn't sign up if they follow something they'd like to say.
I would just like to add that it's worth bearing in mind that the function of redistricting is to make each of the 5 election districts as close into balance with each other so that they each have equal population as possible, and in order to fit within the constitutional standard and the Virginia standard. Once you've done that, I agree that voting access is a real concern. Accessibility to the polling places is a concern, and I know that the members of the board have voiced that a number of times, repeatedly, in the process. That is something that can be addressed outside of redistricting, and that's something that's not required to be finalized in 2021, whereas redistricting really is. Another thing that it would be good, I think, for the public to know, Floyd County actually has grown in population over the last 10 years. Not a huge amount, but it has been moving in a positive direction. And that is, that's kind of stark contrast for much of Southwest Virginia, where they've been losing population. So pretty much south and west of Floyd County, it's been a uniform population loss across the board. So I take that as a good sign that we're growing. So.
We're growing slow.
Moderate growth.
Yes, moderate.
That's what we need. We don't need a just bust.
To your point about, you know, what we did was certainly not arbitrary in that, as it stood, the Little River District had the most growth, which was odd because we thought usually we had seen Locust Grove have more growth. Courthouse sometimes had more growth. But this time, in this last 10 years, Little River had the most growth. So it was a matter of trying to figure out how to move over 300 different people in the most, in the fairest way, to make sure that there was no, you know, you have to move by boundaries of roads, creeks, that kind of stuff. And we spent a lot of time on it, and I think we came, I mean, if you look at the little box with the numbers, you can see that we're about as close to being equal as many of our you know, our individual electoral districts are pretty equal. So, you know, we are going to continue to study that more polling places.
As far as that polling places, that's something we're gonna have to get Amy in on, and, work with her.
And,
I know a couple of us has already been talking to, like, my area is the green area right there, and, you know, when you get out around, Green Mountain Church and stuff, it's a long drive, and, you know, I'd even like to see a substation for rescue out there, because, well, it is, but that's something that's gonna take time, we will work on it, we are working on it, and, we're gonna keep it in mind anyway.
Yeah, I think it's important that we'll work with the electoral board on,
Right, yeah.
as a group.
Right. It may be, we may have to have a joint meeting with them sometime. And get their ideas and, you know, tell them what we want, and that could be working good. Anybody else give me something? Yes,
Quickly say,
can you just ask them?
Amy Ingram, I'm the registrar, and I just wanted to say, I think the choices you made were really thoughtful and addressed, you know, some of the concerns I've heard over the past 10 years the best you can, and you looked at moving, you know, compact areas, and, you know, I just think it just worked out really great, and, you know, Brandon with his computer skills is really great with that. Yeah, but I think with what, you know, when you have a big area like we do, you know, it's rural, you really looked at it in a thoughtful way, and I think you've come up with a good product and a good solution, and everything is like really was on target with the numbers. And I have been doing some research on the polling place, you know, issues and costs, so we can do that at another meeting.
Thank you for your assistance and your office's assistance through all this process. Extremely helpful.
And during the election too.
Yeah, it hit at a wonderful time, didn't it?
And I know in our audience, we have a number of folks that work for the electoral board and its polling.
Absolutely, almost everyone here is on the board or an election official,
right.
And, you know, those folks see where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
You know, I just answer the phone. But yeah, so and we have seen with the 45-day early voting, it has allowed a lot of older folks, or, you know, other folks too, but to take advantage of voting at their convenience when they're already in town. And the voting in 2020 during the pandemic, when we voted under tents outside, that alerted a lot of people about curbside voting. See, that's always existed for disabled and handicapped people, but it wasn't widely known. And so people really know about that now, and as you know, our voting numbers are going really well, and with that turnout. So, but I am getting some things together on establishing a polling place and what it might cost and stuff like that. So whenever you want to talk about that at a meeting next year, we'll do that. Okay. Thank you for your work on your district.
So you're not looking for a vote, I think you just can close the public hearing, and if other members of the public wish to submit written comments, I think they can still do that, and it'll be on the agenda for next week.
You know, I want to get open for the people on YouTube too, if they've got questions that they come up with, just forward them to staff or your local representatives, and we'll take them up. Anyone else? I'll close the public comment period on redistricting. All right, and then next is the public comment period. I'll open my public comment period. It is the intent that all persons attending the meeting of the board, regardless of handicap and conditions, shall have an opportunity to participate If any person present requires any special assistance, please let the board know in order that arrangements can be made. So, Bob's on one, and he knows the routine. 4 minutes.
I think I can keep it within that time frame. I'll try. Good evening, I'm Bob Smith. I'm from Indian Valley, Virginia. Lived here a long time. I would like, first of all, to thank every member of the board for everything they do for us, personally as I live here, and for the electoral board as well. Speaking for myself, I want to extend to Justin, on behalf of people in Indian Valley, thanks for everything he's done for us, in every capacity for which he works for the county. Thank
you, Bob.
I'm getting big here, we ain't done yet. That's the only one I had signed up for the public comment period, so, well, I'll give everybody one last chance. So I'll declare the public comment period closed. The next item on here is a closed session.
So, Mr. Chair, your agenda scheduled next is a closed session under 2.2-3711A1. Discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body, and evaluation of performance of departments or schools of public institutions of higher education, where such evaluation will necessarily involve discussion of the performance of specific individuals. And I think my attorney would probably, as we clarify, has to do with candidates for appointed positions on commission boards and commissions.
That was a mouthful.
Free speech. So I take a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second, call the roll.
And so on the motion to go to closed session under 2.2-3711A1, Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mr. Yoder?
Yes.
Ms. Cookenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
And Mr.